Hey guys, welcome to the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. And in today's video, we're gonna hone in on Section 8. But before we get into that, please subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and hit that bell icon because I'm gonna be releasing videos every Monday and Wednesday. Alright, so let's get into it. Is Section 8 the better alternative versus market rate rent? I've been a Section 8 landlord for a few years now, and I will tell you the good and the bad about both. I have market rate tenants, I have Section 8 tenants. Both have pros and cons. Both are not the perfect solution, so you're just gonna have to deal with whatever one you choose. Section 8, what is the appeal to it? Guaranteed rent. Of course, you have the government backing your rent. Now, what people don't understand is that the government does not always pay 100%. And actually, I don't have any of my tenants paying or getting 100% subsidized by the government. I did have one, but then they moved out. So it is not going to be 100% subsidized by the government. Usually they will have a portion. My lowest portion is where one of my tenants pays me $18 a month. And then I have another tenant who's pays me over $600 a month. But it would be great to pay $18 a month in rent, wouldn't it be? Now, as I mentioned, there is a guaranteed portion to the rent, but that is not without its limitations. In order to get that rent, you must provide a well-maintained property for the tenant. What does that mean? Well, the company, or Section 8 I should say, will come out and inspect the property every single year. What are they checking for? They're looking for smoke detectors. They're making sure that the wiring of the property is still good. They're making sure that all of the utilities are on, and they will flag you even if the tenant turns the electricity off because they can't pay for it anymore. That's on you to make sure that they have utilities turned on. So there is a little bit of a frustration moment when you deal with Section 8 sometimes, but the guaranteed part makes it worthwhile. Now let's talk about other misconceptions about Section 8. People say to me, Hoan, how do you have a Section 8 property? Well, it turns out I don't have a Section 8 property. My property can be rented out to anybody. I am just choosing to rent it out to a Section 8 tenant. And why I'm choosing that? Because I want that guaranteed portion. Another misconception that I hear a lot of times is, hey Hoan, I have somebody who's looking for a place to live and they have a 3-bedroom voucher or a 2-bedroom voucher. There is no dollar amount voucher in Philadelphia. The biggest misconception that I hear from most people is that I don't want to rent to Section 8 because they're just going to tear up my place. Well, guys, Section 8 is not a type of human. It is just a financial program. I have Section 8 tenants that take care of their house better than I take care of my own. And then I have some market rate tenants who are just trash. They're terrible, they're dirty, they're messy, they're late on payments. So Section 8 is not a designation on the type of person you're going to get. So please take that one out of your head. The other appeal that Section 8 has over, say, market rate is that sometimes Section 8 will pay you more than what the market is dictating. They have a sliding scale, and they, in Philadelphia, break up the city into different zip codes or brackets of zip codes. So they have 4, and they call it like Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4. And depending on which section you're in will dictate how much you're able to get for rent. And of course, a 1-bedroom will get less than a 2-bedroom, will get less than a 3, will get less than a 4. Depending on the property and what zip code will dictate what amounts you can get. And some of the zip codes are not priced properly, so you could get more than what the market says, and then you can also get less than what the market says. Where that can become a really big problem is in the process of getting a tenant. Unfortunately, you will not know how much you will get for that tenant if they decide to move into your property. What's the process? Well, in Philadelphia, we have a website, gosection8.com, where you can post your property to be rented out. And by posting it there, you are telling people that we are Section 8 friendly. And if you have a voucher, then we are willing to accept you. A lot of landlords, they still have that preconceived notion that the Section 8 tenant is a poor quality tenant, so they don't want to rent there. Having this website will allow tenants to know that you are a Section 8 friendly landlord, and that if you have a property listed there, that they can potentially rent it. So you would first market the property on that website. If somebody's interested, great. You set up an appointment for them to walk through it. They walk through the property. If they say they like it, you go, fantastic. Here's an application. Please fill out the application and we will do a background check. What you're checking for typically is whether or not they have good or bad credit, whether they have a criminal record, whether they have evictions, all of that kind of stuff. When it comes to credit though, a lot of times the tenants have really, really bad credit. So I kind of negate that one. If you're looking to screen them based on credit and you want a Section 8 tenant, you're gonna go through a lot of people. Most of my Section 8 tenants have really bad credit. I don't allow that to be a deterrent. I do look though if they have a prior eviction. A prior eviction just says to me that they didn't care enough for the previous landlord, so they're not gonna care about me. It may not be true, but it's not a risk that I want to take. Now, you may be able to not allow somebody to move into your place because of a criminal record or because of their credit or because of eviction, but you cannot discriminate against them based on their age, their gender, their religion, their nationality. So don't do that. That's actually a bad thing. But let's move forward. Let's say you find a tenant, you accept the tenant. What's next? Now you have to go schedule an inspection with Section 8. You have to say, hey, I got a tenant. I have a 3-bedroom house. They have a 3-bedroom voucher. They'd like to move in. Please come inspect the property. So an inspector will come and look around and look at everything. I have failed so many inspections that I tell people you should anticipate failing the first one. Here's where it really sucks. When an inspector comes out and they fail you the first time, and then the second inspection that you get is a new inspector and they find something else that wasn't on the list to repair the first time. They find something else to fail you on. So you fail the second time and then you hope to pass the third time. And each time you fail, that's 2 weeks in between. What are some of the things that I failed on? I'm just gonna name the small ones. Are you familiar with a junction box? That's where wires go into a junction box above. They're usually in the basement. They're on the ceiling of the basement, and that's where the wires enter into a box. Well, if you're missing one of the caps to that junction box, you will fail for that. I've had it where the gap between the door, where the door closes with the wall, where that gap was just a little too big and you could see some light. They failed me for that. I've had a property where the windows, when you put them up, they come down a little, they don't hold, and I got failed for that. I've had properties where they have doors where the lock, there's a keyhole on both sides. I got failed for that. I've had staircases where the railing doesn't go all the way down to the last step. I failed for that. I've had radiators that were repainted and the paint was chipping. I failed for that. So ultimately, what am I saying? There's a lot of things you can get failed for. So that's why I tell people you probably are going to fail that first inspection. Hopefully you get that same inspector the second time and the same notes are there and you repair all the repairs that were on the notes, and this way the second time around you pass with flying colors. After you get done the inspections, after you've been approved, you're done, right? Of course not. This is Section 8 and there is a long process. Off to the next department. What is that? Well, it is rent determination. They're going to now tell you, based on the tenant and based on your property, how much you can get per month. On the sheets that you might get from Section 8 that say how much they're willing to pay you, that is usually listing the maximum that they are allowed to pay you. Usually what they give you is less than that. How is the rent determined? I don't know. Nobody knows. There's an algorithm. It's actually based upon the condition of your property, the amenities that you have, amenities being ceiling fans, dishwashers, garbage disposals, things like that. So the amenities, the property condition, also the income of the tenant, the potential tenant. A lot of these Section 8 people have jobs, and if they make more money, they have to pay more in terms of their tenant portion. Remember I was saying that of the rent, the tenant has a portion and then the government pays the other? Well, that's a sliding scale, that percentage there. And again, it's all based on whether or not the tenant has income or not have income. And then what's the condition of your property will determine the total amount that could be paid out to you. Okay, so now they said, all right, we can pay you $1,300 a month. Are you interested in that? And if you say yes, we're done, right? Of course not. You have to wait a couple weeks. And then they're going to schedule a lease signing. Then you go to the Section 8 office, with the tenant, and then you sign the lease. There you go. Now you have a 2-year lease with this potential tenant, or now they're going to be your tenant. So you have this 2-year lease with them, and then you're going to set up the arrangement so that you can collect the rent from them, that tenant portion. How are you going to collect that? Are you going to collect cash? Are you going to do Venmo? Are you going to do checks? Are you going to do something like an Appfolio or Buildium? Or are you going to use a property manager? How are you going to collect that tenant portion? The government portion, the Section 8 portion, that is direct deposit, which is nice. That other portion, you have to figure that part out. For me personally, I use Venmo, I use Cash App. I do not collect cash, and I try not to drive around and pick up any money because my time is worth much more than to have to be on the road picking up money from people, let alone that being dangerous if you were to pick up cash. So never do that. Figure out some digital way of doing it. And if the tenant really argues with you, figure out how you can have them go to the bank for you and make a direct deposit for you that way. Now, once they're in there, you have to treat them like every other tenant. If they call and they have an issue, you go out there and you fix it. You just make sure your property's good. The one thing I would tell you, a little hint from a landlord, is that you want to make sure that they understand what happens when a toilet is running. If a toilet's running, it'll make a noise. They'll see water trickle. Have them tell you about that as soon as possible, because that water bill will be tied to the property, and if they move out and the water bill goes sky high, that's on you. So make sure you educate them on what a running toilet was. I learned that the hard way, where I didn't teach a tenant about what a running toilet was. This tenant was brand new, never moved out on their own ever, and the toilet was running for a while. And I realized that after I got the bill. So don't follow my footsteps where I didn't teach the tenant. Make sure you educate them. But again, once the tenant's in there, they're living in there, that's their house, and make it so that they enjoy it and that they want to stay there long term and pay you that tenant portion. Have you thought about Section 8? Were you afraid of doing Section 8 because you think the tenant's going to rip up your property? Let me know below in the comments. Section 8 for me, I love it, and I try to do it whenever I can. If the price that I'm looking for is more than Section 8's willing to pay, then I go market rate. But if I can help it, I will go Section 8 every single time. But again, tell me below, do you have Section 8 tenants? Do you want Section 8 tenants? And what are you afraid of, if not? And if you are looking for more ways to invest and you want to learn more about things like Section 8 and market rate and how to be a great landlord, check out some of my classes at hoanzone.com. Again, that's hoanzone.com. Check out the courses. They are always changing. Always go back to see what's new. If you got value from this video, definitely smash that like button and share this with a friend. And I want to thank you guys for watching the video today, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.